Tim. So we're here at segment number 4. We're going to talk about, and this is really important because you don't want to get off on the wrong foot. So let's make sure we're perfectly well aware and understand what are the single participant solo rules to have a 401k.
You just said it, single participant. And it's kind of redundant too with the solo part. What they want is they want to make sure that there's no way you're going to burn your employees. And that's why they had these very liberal rules about solo 401ks. So long as everybody is an owner and there's no full-time employees, you're going to qualify as a solo 401k. So number 1 rule, no full-time employees. You can't have employees who work more than 1,000 hours. If you don't have those full-time employees, you can probably set up a solo 401k.
Yeah, this is. I had the same problem at my office because it was just me and my daughter that ran the business for the longest time. Everyone else was a subcontractor or whatever, and we'll get into that. But I was pushing off again, like I said. She was worked well over 1,000 hours. So I talked to a very knowledgeable person, and now she owns 2% of my company, and she's no longer a paid employee. She's a paid owner, and that changed everything.
That changes everything. I mean, theoretically, you could have 10,000 people, so long as they had part ownership of the LLC, it could still qualify as a solo.
Okay, so that brings up an interesting question. I mean, is there like, I was recommended 2%. Of course, it was my daughter. I didn't care, 2%, 5%. Sure. She's my daughter. She's been with me for 22 years. But what if I had people I didn't really, can I give them 0.03% or 0.04%? I mean, is there some minimum that they have to have ownership, or does it not say, or there's no case law?
There's some reference the IRS has about a 2% ownership, but I've seen some as low as 0.03%. I would suggest at least 2%. Let's have that 2% there.
Is there a way to give like a buyback or something? Like what if you're giving 2% of your company that you don't even know is going to make it? But in order to not jeopardize your plan, you need the help. So is there a way I can get an option to buy back the 2% so that if I ever need to get that 2% back from that person who's moved along or I pushed along down the road, is that feasible?
Buy-sell agreements, they're done every single day, 5,000 times a day. We're just setting up a fancy buy-sell agreement to protect each party's interests. Sure, if the regular market does it, you can do the exact same thing with your solo 401k.
Okay, so this does cause a little bit of bookkeeping because at the end of the day, they need to get 2%.
Absolutely.
They have to get 2% of whatever the net profit of the company was, right?
It has to be valid.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's another conversation for another day, and we don't want to get into that minutia because the numbers on this could vary hugely.
And let me share another thing. Someone asked me the other day, or they had the situation of, they had a construction company, and the construction company, I don't know, had 50, 60 employees. And they thought, hey, Tim, can I just set up a side business over here, and we'll set up the 401k on the side business? And the answer is no. The IRS doesn't want you to set up a retirement plan that only benefits you, and yet you own 100% of a business off to the side with 500 employees. They would say that retirement plan would have to cover all the employees of all the companies that you have majority ownership in. So be aware of that. If you have a business with employees, you're going to have to, your solo 401k plan would have to cover all those employees. So you're going to have to do some further planning.
I'm going to say if you own less than 50% of the business, I'm going to assume it's not your business. You're just a participant.
Yeah.
So if you had kids, could you work them into a 51% ownership so it's their business and you're...
Yeah, that would work. So long as the kids are over 21. They got to be over 21 years old. So long as they're over 21, now we set it up where the kids own, I don't know, 53%, whatever. They have a majority of the business. They're in effective control of that business. Now that business can set up a solo 401k plan. You can move your money inside there, and now you can start using the benefits of the solo 401k plan. And by the way, it works because your kid has ownership, you have ownership, we meet the requirements.
Don't take no or don't stop at the first roadblock. Let's get some professional advice. If you've got personal situations, make sure you call Tim in his office.
And let me just kind of recap on that for the solo 401k rules. To make it a solo 401k plan, you can't have employees. You can't have a business that you own greater than 50% of with employees. And if you do have that, you need to do some further planning with kids or somebody else. So you can't have employees or have a business with further employees. And I'm redundant in saying that too many times. And the reason being is it's an awful thing whenever I talk to someone 4 years after they set this up and they've had 500 employees off to the side, and now they're in a world of hurt.